So welcome everyone to the Nostalgic Dragon. Today I'm honored we have um, Derek and Justin's Epic Quest podcast here, guesting, going to talk about their podcast and their, I think, passion for Malazan Book of the Fallen too. Yeah, welcome, Derek and Justin.
Thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Yeah,
Um,
likewise.
Yeah, it's really good. And for those not knowing, I was invited to your podcast some months ago. We talked about then it was I think chapter 4 or 5 or something like that. House of Chains. Maybe you
Was
remember.
it that long ago? Justin would probably remember, not me, but Justin
Yeah,
seems to remember the chapters. We joke about that. He's always good at remembering what happens to what chapter, and I'm not. So
I'm drawing a blank. I mean, but
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I just woke up 15 minutes ago, so
Okay. Yeah, it's evening here in Sweden and means it's lunch or something where you are.
about
it's
that,
11
yeah.
o'clock here. Yeah, 11 a.m.
Great. I just wanted you to, I mean, many people here, some might know of your podcast, some don't know about it. So just explain a bit about your podcast to start with.
Sure. Which one of us is going here, Justin?
Well, I mean, how much of a backstory would you like?
A lot, I think, because people are
Okay,
interested, uh, doing Malasan content and yeah, the podcast itself, of course, and how you got into it and maybe yeah, why you started doing it, of course.
sure. Well, Derek, I'll let you take this one. You do much better at this than I do.
Okay. So Justin and I, we've been friends since seventh grade, I think is when we first met, middle school. And we had some similar reading interests. We do track or cross country together? I don't
It
remember.
was it was track, yeah.
We did track and stuff together. And then I think we started reading, it started with Redwall. Maybe we didn't read the same book at the same time, but like I'd read this one, you'd read that one, and then it kind of progressed into the Wheel of Time. And then we got older. We were in high school, graduated high school, moved on with our lives. And then the Wheel of Time TV show came out, and Justin was close to finishing the book series at that point. And I don't remember if you finished before the show came out or not.
I was on Knife of Dreams when the show came out.
Okay, so you're not quite finished. Um, but I invited Justin to come down to watch the Wheel of Time TV show when it debuted, so we could hang out and catch up because we hadn't done that in quite a while. Um, And I knew I was going to ask him this, and again, this is one of those things I don't really remember if I told you about it before, but we were hanging out before the show started, and I said, "Hey, I've got these other books that I haven't read. I don't know anything about them. Do you want to read them together?" And he said, "Yeah, that sounds cool." And then we watched what they had like the first three episodes out for real time. We watched those, had a great time. And then I don't know, another week or two went by and I had kind of had this idea that I wanted to do a podcast. I hadn't told you that yet, Justin, but then I kind of sprung it on you asking if you would be interested in doing that. And maybe maybe stupidly we said yes and did it. But I had discovered podcasts at like the job that I was working. I would work nights, and so I found an Alien podcast, which is another big like passion of mine. I love the Alien franchise, and so I'm like, holy cow! Like, there's podcasts for all this stuff out here. I found a Wheel of Time one that I listened to, a Game of Thrones one, just and so like from listening to these other podcasts, I was kind of like, well, this would be kind of neat to do because I'm not really seeing any for Malazan, or there's very few. Um, And so I kind of had these elements in my mind from these other podcasts that I thought, okay, well, maybe we could do this. And fortunately for us, I think it worked out really good. I think Justin and I balance each other really well. Like he does a great job doing all like the behind the scenes stuff that like I don't know how to do, and I'm sure you didn't at first either. Just, we learned. Um, and Justin kind of lets me be the advertiser, I guess, which I like doing. I have a lot of fun doing.
Mm.
And he always says that he doesn't like doing that side of things. So it
Um,
works out good for us.
But you are Derek, you are the X-Man, for example, the person
Yeah,
with
yeah,
bats,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
For example.
Thank you.
yeah. But yeah, I mean that's kind of how the podcast came to be, and it's been just about 3.5 years now that we've been doing this. It's we've been pretty consistent. We've had some breaks and stuff in there, like when life things come up and that sort of thing. But we've still been carrying on doing this, as often as we can. And I think we've got a pretty good system down now. It was kind of rough in the beginning, the first, I don't know, probably 10 to 12 chapters. Uh, we didn't really know what we were doing. We were still figuring it out. I didn't even have a computer for the first while. I was just recording on my phone. Um, but we learned a lot. And I think maybe more so on Justin's end of things. I think he's learned a lot and he's gotten really good at what he does. So I'm very appreciative to have him do this with me because it could have imploded really quickly. Like if neither one of us were tech savvy enough to do it, like it wouldn't sound good. It wouldn't be good, I don't think.
Yeah, production is so important for each, so that's great. So Malazan was, yeah, you didn't make any podcast on any other book. Malazan was the first one for the, I mean, not for this podcast, but you didn't have any other podcast before testing it out, so to speak.
Correct.
Hmm.
Yeah.
One thing you should definitely listen to this podcast if you haven't done it. It's great. When I was invited, as I told you, we talked about earlier, and I've been on your podcast. I was impressed by the thoroughness of the preparations. Uh, the draft, yeah, you sent me the chapter and you had comments and so on. Could you tell me a bit how you prepared the episodes? And also, I mean, you have a lot of listeners, and you also have had more guests on the show as well. So I'm curious to hear about that as well.
You want to take that one,
Yeah,
Justin?
sure, absolutely. I remember we were recording, I think it was the first two episodes of Gardens of the Moon, the prologue, then the first chapter. And we didn't really have a format. So like to me, going back through and editing it felt very not organized, not produced, not it just felt very bad. Um and so
They were not
it was one
great.
of yeah, right. And a minor segue here, you know, we want people to get into Malazan. We want people to enjoy it. And the hard part for me to sit with is the fact that those two very crucial episodes are so bad. People listen to them and they're like, oh, I'm already like out of tune with this because it's bad. It is, but we have to give ourselves some grace because that was our first podcast, that was our first episodes, and we have grown significantly since then. So uh if you decide to give us a listen, please just be patient. It does get better. The microphones get better, the production gets better. And that it was kind of where I quickly kind of realized, and I'm like, hey, Derek, we need some type of like structure here. We need to present this in a way that is going to be engaging. And that's where I don't know who came up with it. That part I don't recall, but we decided to just do sections, right? Like section out the chapter, odds and even, right? So I think Derek, you started with odds and then I did evens. And then when Deadhouse Gates came around, we switched. I took odds, he took even. And we would summarize each of those sections, not quite fully, but just kind of like as we're summarizing what we feel is the most important bit in that sentence. Sometimes we're uh, you know, summarizing many sentences and many paragraphs, which ends up making it very, very long for us to write and read. But if we feel it is crucial in that moment in time, it well, we want it in the podcast. We want to be thorough. But the summarizing helped us because it almost like made you read it like 1.5 times, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because you're going through and you're summarizing it, right? So like you're taking it, you're slowing it down, you're breaking it down, and that is where your first read kind of gets added to, because now you're able to supplement information that you have gathered while summarizing at a slower speed into what you read beforehand.
How much do you think it's difficult to answer maybe as you are in the fourth book now, but I mean, from when you read it first time and then, as you say, you read it 1.5, you read it, how much do you feel that you miss from, the first read to the 0.5 read plus?
A lot actually. And I want to say that it's probably going to be my go-to. Like I imagine myself with other books, if I'm struggling with a chapter, that I would just summarize it. Just open up a blank Word document or G doc or whatever they call it, and just summarize it. Just write down what it is that you think is important, and the picture will be so much clearer.
Hmm. There are many people watching the channel who are new or curious on Malazan. So that's an idea, as many of you who are watching know, that I want to push people to encourage people. Maybe it sounds more polite, or push people to read Malazan. But for you, you started the podcast and then you got into Malazan, and there are, all these characters, all these plot lines. How do you deal with that, with summarizing? Do you need to, I mean, now you're on House of Chains. My own experience, I'm on reread Bone Hunter still, but reading a lot of ENC at the moment. I feel like my perception of what's happened in the beginning, like Gardens of the Moon, compared to, let's say, Memories of Ice, because you get more and more knowledge, changes. How does it affect your summarizing, or how you analyze the books or talk about the books?
I mean, I think yes, in ways, because there are callbacks to Gardens of the Moon and all of the books that we've read so far, outside of maybe the first novella of Boschlane and Coral Brooch.
Mm,
But
mm,
it's nice because I always like to describe it, because I'm an artist, I'm a visual person. The way that it makes sense to me is you've got two paintings, right? You saw one first, and then you see the second one, but the second one makes the first one that much better. That's kind of what it does to me. Just the whole, even in House of Chains, the very first sub book, right?
mhm,
All of that aligns along a timeline, and you get pockets of references to the first book, which kind of is like your landmark, you
mm.
know?
And for you, Derek, you read it once, or you also read? Yeah, you get the summaries, of course, and are reading them and discussing. How does it work for you?
Yeah, well, I'll read it the first time, and then I think a lot of times it's not that I'm trying to rush through it, but I'm excited to read. I'm excited to read and move on to the next chapter. And then when I sit down to summarize it and take the time to do that, I realize that maybe I wasn't paying as close of attention, or I didn't notice something, the first time I read it. So then, I catch those things, and I'll try to read it effectively a third time before we record, and I know Justin does that too. It doesn't always happen, just depends on what we have going on, but it's something that I know we both say a lot on our episodes is we're continually amazed at how we both read these same words, but either they mean different things or we perceive different things,
Mm.
and it's just interesting to see how maybe not so much we clash, but sometimes we differ on things or we just have different ideas. And I think that's kind of the fun part is I get to hear Justin's ideas because he comes up with a lot of really good stuff. I get to give him my things. And
Mm.
we both come up with just kind of dumb off the wall stuff too. Uh, but that's the fun of it. Like, I think neither of us are taking it too seriously.
Mm.
And I mean, there's times where we have to in these books. There's some very serious subject matter, and
Yeah.
and I think we deal with that appropriately. But when we can have fun, that's the main thing. Is we're looking to have fun and just share this journey with everyone.
What drew you to Malazan, and what was your first impressions when you started to read Gardens of the Moon, for example?
So this is kind of a funny story. So when Justin came down to my house and I told him I had these books, so I guess I kind of inherited these books. At one point I had a roommate living with me, and abruptly he just left, and he left a bunch of stuff. And this book series was one of the things that he left. And like I've always liked fantasy books, and but I'd never heard of these, and I didn't know anything, and they've been sitting on my shelf for years, and I didn't know when I was ever going to read them. And then I just had this idea, like, oh, let's do this. I'll see if Justin wants to do this. Um, I don't really remember what my expectation was going into it. Um, and I'm sure Justin probably couldn't have really had any expectation either. I don't know if you had heard of them or not, but when you came down, we kind of read the back cover and stuff and started paging through it. And then when we started, we picked a day to record and we just kind of dove in and started doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was still a little baby when it came to fantasy books because I had tried to read The Wheel of Time when I was in high school, and I got to like the beginning of the sixth book, and then I just, for whatever reason, put it down because I was a busy teenager. But then when COVID happened, we had all this time. I'm like, I really want to know how this ends because throughout my life, various points, I'd be like, I like this books. What happened to these characters? I would just find myself at random times thinking about them. So I'm like, I'm on it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish it. Took me about 9 to 10 months to finish the whole series.
Mm.
And then Derek was like, "Hey, you want to come down and watch the show?" And I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah!"
That's cool.
It was a good time.
Yeah, courage to, getting right into Malazan Book of the Fallen and then podcasting about it. I think that's many people who read Malazan. I know maybe because that's the people I meet, can be very thorough, very analytical, and so on. Maybe PowerPoint people almost. I heard a joke. I was thinking about myself. I use PowerPoint sometimes, mostly in work, but from when you started to read them, I had a question here on the channel, which many people answered. Which characters did you root for initially? Is it the same characters you root for now in Malazan? Was it some characters I want to follow, him or her, for example?
Tattersail is probably my all-time favorite. Um, I'm a little sad by her storyline, but I won't say more.
Yeah.
But she was definitely one of my favorite characters. I think I find myself being drawn to a few in Dead House Gates as well as House of Chains. I don't know. I guess how spoilery can we be?
Um, I think maybe very minor spoilers, if it's possible.
Okay. I mean, I'll just say names. Haborik, I'm drawn to his story.
Mm.
Um, Kalam, Fiddler,
Mm.
Crocus.
Yeah.
I almost slipped there.
Mm.
Yep.
Mm. You, Derek, did immediately attracted by some person that you liked really, really much?
I'm thinking back to Gardens of the Moon. The only character that I did not like Lorne at all in that book. But I think as we've gone through the books, I think I found things in all the characters, whether I like the character or not, that I want to see how things play out, especially like where we're at now in House of Chains, um, with Bidethal. Um, really don't like him, but I'm anticipating what's going to happen in his storyline. But I think a lot of like the military units, the sappers, those are some of my favorites because they're just crazy.
Mm. And the humor is, I like the humor, the
Yeah.
the military banter, you could say, or humor that is in the Malazan Book of Fallen. I had a video together with a guy called David. His channel is called Four Corners of the Page, and we had a discussion on different lenses, you could say, different perspectives you could read Malazan from. You talked a little bit maybe about that, I don't know, but do you interpret and do you read the Malazan Book of the Fallen differently? You said it earlier that you did it sometimes. What's the difference in your reading? And what do you learn from each other? I mean, Justin has a perspective, maybe you, Derek, has another.
I think the one thing that I super appreciate about the way that Derek's mind work is like military formations and like hierarchy. That was just never my thing. Formations, I didn't like. I struggled with that a lot in Dead House Gates, and Derek, along with Graceless Passions videos about those particular battles, helped kind of fill in the blanks because I'm such a visual person. Um, but also Derek just like finds these almost like magic situations 3 or 4 books ahead, and I'm like, I don't know how you see this coming, like so he's just very in tune with the the small subjective things that get thrown his way.
Mm.
I guess I don't know if what Justin's referring to right now is there was one, I don't remember what chapter it was in, but there was a chapter where there was one word towards the end of it, and I'm trying to think of it right now.
Is this the Gardens of the
Oh,
Moon?
no, I'm talking about House of
House of
Chains.
Chains.
Yeah, was it? I don't. Somebody said that they were going to earn their name or something like that. And like a few days later after I read that, it just like popped into my head. I'm like, I wonder if Tavor's army is going to earn this name, which is the title book, a couple books down the line.
Mm.
Um, just to leave it kind of vague there, I guess. So just like that type of thing. Um, yeah, but sometimes it's just like I know there's been another instance. It's just like a word will jump out at me
Mm.
because we know that Mr. Erickson is very intentional with his word choice.
Yeah.
It
And then
was
like
chapter 5 of Gardens of the Moon when
oh,
Paran,
okay.
yeah, yeah, and without really, I mean, I would assume that most people listening have probably read Gardens of the Moon,
Yeah,
but
you can talk about the garden, so that's okay.
okay. I think it was chapter 5 after Paran was stabbed by Sari. He visits, like he's at the gate of Hood, right? And the twin gods Opon are visiting him, and Derek picked up on somebody said, I'm not exactly sure, that in exchange for his life, another family member would lose theirs
Mm. Mm.
or something like that. And so thus predicted or speculated upon the Paran family dynamic, which envelops and unfolds throughout 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
and I'm sure throughout the rest of the books too, and we'll get there eventually. So we'll see. I think we both have some theories that, maybe they're for the long game, and we'll have to see how they unfold, how they play out. But
I think I mean, you have a wonderful resource when you come to the end of the Cripple God, when you finish everything, then you can look back at all these episodes you have, and you will have huge knowledge about the Malazan world. For me myself, I usually when I read the first time, it's usually on it's analytical too. We talked about it when I was visiting you as well. I had these spiritual lens, as people know here on the channel, and maybe philosophical too. And then maybe that's the first things I think about when I read a book, or any kind of book, and then I go to the plot, for example, and to all the things that happen. So when I'm rereading it now, I really grasp the details better, for example. So that's a way to look at it and read it too. I have a friend here in Sweden who's reading Malazan now, and he's really into the details. So it's interesting when we discuss, because we have different layers when we are talking about the Malazan Book of the Fallen.
is that friend? Is that John?
Huh?
Is that John?
The
Your
friend?
friend? Yeah.
No, his name is Gustav.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I think we've email exchanged with John, and he lives in Sweden, and
Yeah, yeah,
I thought
yeah,
he said
yeah,
you guys
yeah.
talked
That's
on the
right.
phone, so I
Yes,
wasn't
yes.
sure if that was him or not. So I was
That's
just
true.
curious.
That's John. He lives in north of Sweden, by the way. So that's how I remember him. Everyone else is in
Okay,
Stockholm, more or less, or in Gothenburg. But yeah, we are emailing each other a lot about Malazan and so on. He's doing a lot of science, so he's very busy. So, but
okay,
one day and he contacted me because he had talked to you, and then we started to email and talk to each other last summer.
sure.
That's
Yeah. Well,
cool.
hi, John. Hope you're well.
Yeah, I think that's cool with the Malazan community. I mean, there are many small Malazan communities, but the book can, bring people together, and we are interested in this book and also get to know each other. It seems like maybe not all Malazan readers are alike, but somehow we might be a little bit similar because we are reading these really long books. How has that worked for you with the podcast? Because you have invited people. Have you got to know a lot of Malazan fans during these years you've had the pod?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the coolest things. I don't know. I certainly didn't have really any expectations when we started this thing. Um, and then we just started making friends around the world, and it would just blew me away. I mean, just about anywhere we've got friends all over the place, and I do think they are friends.
Mm,
I care a lot about these people, and because not because they listen to us. I mean, that's definitely a cool thing that they do, but just that I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect to interact with all these people who probably, love this book series more than we do because they've maybe partially because they finished it, and even though we're 4 books in, I mean, I still feel pretty new to it.
mm,
And I don't, maybe you feel similarly, Justin, but just getting to interact with all these other people, whether they're other creators, podcasters, whatever, like yourself, just getting to talk to people all over the world. It, to me, it's kind of humbling just like that it all brings us together. I never expected that. I don't know how you felt, Justin.
I would definitely say that it was a benefit that did not was not made aware until it started happening. So it is really appreciated, and as you've said, very humbling because you get to know these people from across the pond or even within your own state.
mm,
So it's humbling.
mm. I think it's interesting to meet different Malazan readers. I mean, I David, which I talked a little bit about, I think he's read them. He's on the fourth run or something like that.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, but my idea is maybe to read it three times. I suppose that's yeah, enough in a way. I mean, it's good, but it's, maybe we'll do other things after that. But many people read these books. They are coming back to the books. Do you, I mean, it's too early to see that for you, maybe, but do you see it? Can you understand why people come back to these books and why? Do you have any clues or ideas?
I definitely plan to reread it, even though I'm rereading each chapter 2 to 3 times. Like I still want to come back and get the whole normal reading experience where it's not one chapter a week, but more like many chapters in a week. And just kind of see what it is that I picked up on. And I do this with movies too. Like there's tons of movies that I rewatch, or even video games,
Mm,
replay
mm,
the same video game, and I will pick out or find different parts that I missed before.
mm,
And that is always really cool because what I made with my analogy earlier, you look at the second painting and all of a sudden the first one is just so much more vibrant. That's what I imagine a reread will do. And that's kind of maybe a little bit of a reason why we started this podcast is we kind of wanted to be like that strategy guide for new Malazan readers
mm.
that can more or less stumble along with us, right? Maybe make that journey a little bit more nurturing and comforting because it sucks to feel like you don't understand. And maybe listening to someone who shares that feeling but is still going
Mm.
may help them. But I feel it also appeals to the readers who have gone through before because now they get to vicariously read it again through us,
Yeah.
as well as listen to our crazy cockamamie theories. And then they just chuckle in silence.
Yeah. I think once we kind of started getting into the books and involved with the community, I know a lot of the stuff that I saw, people said, well, it's a very complex series. It's very intimidating and that type of thing. And I don't know that I ever felt that way too much. And that might be just because we're doing this in bite-sized chunks, one chapter at a time, and we're reading it a couple times. And so there's not so much to be overwhelmed with when you're only reading one chapter at a time, and then you're talking to somebody about it. And if there is something that I don't understand, I can be pretty confident that Justin's going to have a grasp on it. If I have questions for him, he's going to be able to explain it. And so I
Or vice
just,
versa. Yeah.
yeah, just that buddy system helps a lot.
Mm. That's great. I think it's a good way to read it as you do. I think it can be easy to get lost in Malazan. You can easily feel alone in Malazan. I didn't think either it was. I mean, it's complex. I mean, if you only read Narnia, of course, then Malazan is very, very complex. But if you read a lot of fantasy or other books, non-fantasy books as well, I don't think it need to be so difficult. But I think the fact that if you're only reading it alone and not sharing it with others, then I think it can be challenging from time to time, maybe mostly because there are many books and you have to keep, it's like a marathon. So it's easy to do marathon with a friend than than just
Hmm.
being alone.
Right.
For sure.
Do you think this idea of a complexity which surrounds Malazan Book of the Fallen that it's unfair?
I don't think that it's unfair. I think that sometimes when life throws us a challenge, we have many ways that we can decide to go. We can fight through it or we can run away from it. And I think that those who choose to fight it find the beauty on the other side.
Hmm. So,
I don't think I could add anything to that, Justin. That was well said.
yeah, it
Sorry.
was poetic put, I think.
Malazan has done this to me. This is
Yeah.
Malazan's fault.
Yeah. I mean, Malazan is very deep and poetic, and for me, I started to understand. I mean, I wasn't clueless before Malazan, but I think I became more humbled by Malazan because they changed perspective all the time. For example, you follow Guy X and Guy Y from their perspective, and then you get a broader view on how things, the conflicts are. For example, who is bad and who is good. For example. How has the the number of listeners, how has it developed during your first podcast? You mentioned, Justin, that the quality has improved a lot since you started. And of course, when you do things like that, like for me with the YouTube channel here, which is in progress, I would say, you learn things all the time. So,
Yes, exactly. And I think that it started off very slow and not necessarily, I mean, I'm sure that I attribute some of it to the production value was not as good, but got better towards the end of the first season. But I think that a lot of the community, and this is just an observation, and I very well could be 100% wrong on this, but I feel like a lot of the community members for Malazan almost kind of get their hopes up when something new comes out, and they're just hoping that it stays and doesn't go away after the first, second, third, fourth book. So I think that there's a lot of community members that are waiting to subscribe or follow until they get to a certain threshold that they feel comfortable, like, okay, I mean, they've been doing it for this long, like they say they're not going to stop, maybe they actually can put some trust in it. I feel like a lot of the community has maybe been burned by podcasts or content of the past that only cover the first two books and then they're done. But, I mean, these are the first two books, right? Like these are the entry points. So anybody who's starting is going to be talking about these. And, maybe there might be a little bit of, oh, I've heard this already. Can we get to the fourth or fifth book? Because, like, that was my favorite.
I think I
Yeah.
agree, Derek.
Well, I was just saying, I don't think that's to, knock anybody else. I mean, we don't know what anybody else has going on in their life where, they couldn't continue to do things, for whatever reason. But we try to preface people, if they haven't listened to us, if they start at the beginning, like Justin said earlier, give us that grace. Our first 8, 10, 12 episodes, whatever it was, were not very good. But if you can get through that, then, it gets better.
And I think, I don't know, my experience by the community is that it's very welcoming. So, because people are usually happy that there are other Malazan, fellow Malazans out there. So I think the judgment, the judging is not so hard. That's my experience. People are very welcoming towards Malazan initiatives. One thing I think though is difficult. I don't know how you treat that, but you don't spoil, of course, anything. I mean, you spoil things because you're doing next chapter. But one thing I struggle with some from time to time is because I want people to get interested into Malazan, and then it's 10 books, so you cannot really talk so much about, you can't spoil too much. You can, of course, have advanced videos and intermediate Malazan videos and beginner Malazan videos. Um, I don't know how you perceive that because maybe someone says, "Yeah, this sounds like your podcast sounds interesting, but I have to wait until I've read the third book or anything like that." I don't know if you have experienced that and how you tackle that. So,
Um, I don't know if we really have dealt with that I can think of. I mean, if I see a post on Facebook or on Twitter or X, um, I'll try to throw us in there and, let people know, like, as long as if you're just starting this, if you listen to us, and as long as if you don't listen ahead further than what you've read, you're not going to have anything spoiled because it's all new to us too, and kind of going back to like your numbers question a few moments ago.
Mm.
I don't know that it's always cool. Like, we can we track how many like plays or downloads, whatever you want to call
Mm.
it, we have, and it's always fun to see those go up. But I think it's regardless of that, we're still going to keep doing it. It's just kind of I feel like it's kind of for us, and
Yeah.
then people just are coming along for the ride, and we're grateful for that.
Yeah, I agree with that with my own channel, because numbers is not so important. It's the passion and the hobby that is important. And then if we have got to know each other here now, via your podcast and now this channel, and I have other people in Canada, which I got to know through the channel, for example. I think that's cool. Maybe that's the main reward, so to speak, that you get to know people that you actually can have contact with in the future as well, no matter what you do. I think that's the great thing. That's maybe real social media, I suppose, that you connect with people.
Yeah.
But do you have Discord or anything like that for your channel?
No. Uh, I mean, we did create one or tried to, but I don't think either of us really understood how it worked. So it exists, but we don't really do anything with it.
Um, One thing I talked about earlier on the channel is the number of races, the Malazan races. Do you Now you read four books, almost four books. Do you have any races in particular that you find interesting, or are your favorites, so to speak?
Um, I'm really loving the Teist races. Because as an artist who has studied light and shadow and darkness, right? The values, um, it appeals to me, and it gets me excited, and I feel like I could probably come up with so many theories about why they're at war with each other, based on the very little clues that we get throughout the series so far. I'm also very intrigued with this Eris Real that was just introduced, on where that is gonna go, because I almost kind of get this like lineage that is happening here, and like that is super interesting to me. Um, yeah.
Do you have any ideas, Derek, on the races?
I know, like when I read, it's kind of a weird thing. Like I understand that they're different races, but I just kind of feel like they're just people.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I don't know that I necessarily have any favorites. I enjoy reading them all, I think, but uh, the mystery around like Animander Rake
Mm.
is is one I enjoy quite a bit. And then the Telanimus, I do enjoy reading them as well, just because they're so ancient. And then now we've just been recently introduced into the Eris, like which we're assuming is the Chelan's ancestors, basically. Um, yeah, it's just the timeline on things and just the amount of races is it's a lot.
You have the old you have, I mean, you have six books ahead of you, coming up, and then there is the God is not willing, and there's a lot of things to read. I don't have it here, but Full of Light, it was here earlier when I was recorded another video for the channel. And then you have Ian C. Esselman's book. So the Malazan universe is huge. I don't want to pressure you. And I mean, doing just 10 is, I mean, that's amazing if you do podcasts for all 10 books. But are you curious on Ian C.'s books and the Erickson books after Malazan Book of the Fallen?
This is your question,
We
Justin.
I mean, I think outside of the prologues, which will obviously happen when we're done, but
Hmm.
we decided to do both authors in publication order.
Yeah.
Outside of the novellas, those
Mm.
we will read chronologically, but only when they come up in the published order, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
Um, so I know Blood Follows was the second one published, but Leaves of Laughter's End was the second one chronologically. So that's how we'll do that.
Mm.
Um, and then Night of
Which we
Knives,
already did What Follows.
right? Yes, we already
Sorry to
did
interrupt
Blood
you.
Follows.
Mm.
No, no, you're good. Or Healthy Dead. That's what I meant. Not Blood Follows. Healthy Dead was the second one published, but um, the third one in sequence. So
Mm.
we'll read the novellas in sequence, but and then Night of Knives will happen after Midnight Tides. So when we're done with Midnight Tides, we'll switch from Erickson to Esselmont.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I think, I mean, I was looking in the bookshelf and I have books. I don't have so many different authors, but the authors I have, they have written a lot of books, like Erickson and Esselmont, for example. That's two shelves, for example, or two
Mm-hmm.
sections in the bookshelf, for example. And then, Tolkien and you have Stephen King and things like that as well. So then you have a full bookshelf already. So there's a lot to do. I was saying that to Ian C. Esselmont when I was interviewing him on the channel that, I aim to read all of his books, and he was laughing, probably positively, I suppose. But then he said, then you have a lot to do, so you don't need to worry. So, have you ever thought about that? I mean, now I'm reading the Witcher, as many people on the channel know. I'm talking a bit about that book. I mean, the size of I like them obviously. The Malazan books are huge. This is a Reaper scale, so. Um, but have you thought about the effective writing and so on? Do you so you don't waste the reader's time? Do you think the Malazan Book of the Fallen are effective writing in that sense so far for you?
I think that I mean I can understand where the first one falls a little bit shorter than the rest.
Mm.
Um, yes, it was meant to be a screen bright
Yeah.
as I
Yes.
this understanding, but it is significantly better. Like you can tell when you start Dead House Gates. Um, and then each book, I feel like it's progressively better than the last in ways that, as a non-writer, I probably couldn't explain, but from someone who doesn't write perspective, it
Mm.
feels so much more, I guess, to me, cinematic and fleshed out. Like I can see, the subtle body movements of each character without like overusing a particular trait, or just the kind of secondary action of some of the characters in all facets of the story.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think, I mean, I'm a bit, sometimes I read other books just to feel that I'm not in a cult. So, right. So just making sure so I'm not caught into some kind of sect or cult with some
Yeah.
strange cult leader. So you never know. So that's not the reason why I read the Witcher, for example. But I try to read other things. Usually I'm going back to Malazan Book of the Fallen. I think that's one of the absolutely best from a prose perspective, and the amount epicness is like huge in that.
Do
But
you find,
yeah, sorry.
oh, I was just going to say, do you find reading other books more challenging than had you not read Erickson?
Um, do you mean if they are more complicated or easier?
Probably more easier. Like I guess
Yeah,
maybe you can relate is like when I'm reading other books,
yeah.
because I am alongside these books,
Mm,
I find them a challenge. Like I've DNF'd a couple of fantasy books that like I heard were really good
Mm,
and had pockets of like, okay, yeah, I can see where this is going, but just like
mm.
fell short.
Yeah,
And I think it's just reminding myself that not every author is Steven Erikson and not every author is going to write the way that Steven Erikson does. But I was DNFing so many books because it just wasn't the same. It just wasn't hitting the same. Um, that it's just kind of come to the conclusion that, like, you know what? I like fantasy themes, so I'm just gonna read it. I don't
yeah.
care how I initially feel, I'm just gonna read it.
Yeah, yeah, that has happened. And I try to a lot, I think, since I started to read Erickson and get into it. I think he has gathered the many great things that exist in fantasy and excelled on that, I think. Now, when I'm reading The Witcher, I don't see it as a fantasy in that sense, for example. I see it more like folklore. So I interpret it a little bit differently. That's why it's easy, very simple stories. They are, it's more humoristic and so on, and more theatrical, for example. So when it comes to fantasy, maybe I don't know, it feels a bit sad to think like that, that maybe Ericsson is, the top, and there is not so much else besides that. If you write in that way, in that kind of stories, and with the epicness, but maybe there will come up other people as well. How do you think about that, Derek? Do you feel like Ericsson is, you don't need to say so, but if is it the top, the best of the best, you could say?
I mean, I would say he's got to be close to the top. I mean, certainly I've not read everything, and like Justin, I'm reading other things too. And I think maybe where Justin and I differ a little bit, like, and I'm not saying you don't enjoy what you read or anything like that, but um, I don't know. It's just when I'm reading something like that's what I'm reading and I'm enjoying it for what it is. Like you said, Justin, you like the fantasy themes and that type of thing. But I want to read what other people are writing too. Um, and I can't say that I don't think I've really read anything bad, but it's just really hard to measure up to the way that Erickson writes. And
Mm.
it's one of those things like I think about and you think about like you could compare it to like athletes too or actors, actresses, that type of thing. Like we're all people, we're all more or less capable of doing the same things. Well, how do these few people do it so much better than everybody else? And it's just sometimes it's hard to comprehend.
Yeah, I think the what I'm thinking about also doing on the channel is where to go after Malazan. And for me, that's more, maybe people should read the Iliad or the Odyssey or the epics, the Hindu epics, for example. If you're interested in that, you can read other epics, of course. Nordic tales or folklore, Norse mythology, for example. That's the thing, I think, after Malazan, rather than going to other fantasy books. If you want to, because that's the inspiration, especially the Odyssey and the Iliad is the inspiration for the for Malazan in many ways.
Hmm.
I think, we've talked about that too. Where are we going to go? Now, that's a problem for us that's years down the road, but we've kind of wondered, well, what are we going to do after?
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long we have till we get to that point, but
mm.
it's not anytime soon.
You figure about once a book a year or one book a year,
Yeah.
about that
Well, I think it's,
every 10
hmm,
months.
yeah, well, probably, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I started to read it Malazan 2015 when we moved to this house where we live now. So it was during the pandemic as well. So without the pandemic, I don't think I would have had the time to read it so fast and get into it so quickly, I think. Um, I think we're going to round up soon, but I wanted to ask you, uh, people are curious on your podcast. Why should they go and listen to you think?
Well, I think we're just, two cool dudes talking about a very cool series, and we want it to be entertaining, but we want it to be, thorough. We want to leave no stone unturned. I apologize for that pun, but yeah, just kind of taking it slow and steady. Like there's no race, there's no, just come chill, hang with us. Send us an email, like, or offer a critique. Like we don't care. Like if you have something to say it.
Hmm.
And if it's impactful to what Derek and I do and could help, like, yeah, absolutely we'll implement it. I think someone gave us feedback that was like, hey, it'd be really cool when you guys are done if you could maybe see predict what the next chapter holds. And we've been doing it ever since. So
Hmm.
I think that was Damien, I think.
yeah, I think,
But
yeah,
that,
somebody. So yeah, shoot us an email, talk to us. Like we want to be more than just a podcast that you listen to. Like we're open to interacting. Granted, I would imagine that would maybe change if we have to answer thousands of emails a day, but for
we
now,
don't.
take advantage, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's great. That's one thing, me being a small booktuber or whatever I'm now, because I'm doing some board games and video games as well. Since you're small, you can have time to answer questions thoroughly and connect with people, chat with people, and so on. If you are big, that's probably impossible to do, I suppose. So, Derek, do you have something to add to Justin's advice? Why listening to your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, like when I'm in the car, if I'm driving to work, not so much if I've got, my wife in the car. She doesn't like listening to the same things as I do, but like I'm always listening to podcasts. I've got a few that are in rotation, and the ones that I really like are the ones where I feel like I'm listening to my friends. Like I could talk to these people in real life. We could have a conversation. And that's what I want to be. That's what I want us to be. I don't see us so much as like content creators, though. I mean, in reality, that's what we're doing. But I don't think either of us have an ego about it. You're like, oh, we do this, so we're awesome. Like Justin said, like if you've got some criticism to give us, like we're not going to be mad about it unless somebody's just like, yeah, you guys suck. Like, okay, well, why? Like, what should we fix? Um, But just if somebody is, I think, I think we kind of know our target audience, and that's like Justin said earlier, it's pretty much one of two types. Either it's somebody who's already read it, wants to listen to two newbies go through it for the first time, see what kind of shenanigans they get into, or it's somebody who's starting the series, maybe needs some help. Well, we've got, what do we have, 150-ish episodes out there?
about that, yeah.
Not, some of them are not Malazan related, but the majority of them are. But we've got probably 130 Malazan episodes that are, what have we had? We've had one episode that was under an hour. We've had one that was almost 10 hours. I mean, there's hours and hours, hundreds of hours of content out there that, hopefully we can help, just help with somebody's experience reading the books, understanding right or wrong. Maybe we're not right on something, but maybe we send you down a different thought path, that type of deal.
But that's also why we have so many guests, right? Like you yourself, the Nostalgic Dragon. We've had even our own Patreons on. So like we try to be inclusive within the community itself. Like, hey, like let's collab. Let's do this with other podcasts. Let's bring on writers. Let's bring on people who just follow us or have read the book 7 times. So it's all in the just trying to get over that fear that it's too complicated.
Mm.
You know, because like that's the biggest thing that I hear with people who are like thinking about reading, and it's just like, don't psych yourself out. Like there's tons of resources out there. And you know, maybe to one's perspective, that's a bad thing. That's an immediate turn off. Oh, like I need to reach out to resources to understand this book. Nah, I'm good. But for those that want to dip their toes in, like there's two approaches to it. There's the soft and gentle, and there is the, well, you just got smacked over your head.
Mm. I think that's all of what you're saying is attractive, and I agree upon it. And especially the humbleness, I really enjoy that from you both. You know how you approach the podcast, and I think especially if I mean I read it mostly alone, Malazan in the beginning. Then I found Philip Chase and AP and so on. You know, then it grew. Um, I think, you know, as you said, if you want to have a friend who's reading Malazan, I think your podcast is really good and great. And I think are so many ways to read Malazan Book of the Fallen, so there is no wrong interpretation. Of course, you can misunderstand things and so, but I think everyone who reads Malazan Book of the Fallen has misunderstood something during the reading journey because it's so detailed. So before we end, I want to add. Of course, that if you haven't listened to Derek and Justin's Epic Quest, do it. I will put a link in below in the comments below for the video, so you can click and get there immediately. I think also a thing I didn't mention is there is a since you mentioned video games, Justin. The I'm doing a few videos on Pillars of Eternity. I don't know if you heard about that game. It's a CRPG, and to me, it's the most Malazan-esque video game I can find, at least when it comes to lore. And I think they are quite inspired by Malazan Book of the Fallen. So that's just an advice for you to check it out. See, maybe you don't
What
like
was
CRPGs, and then it goes always.
what was the name? Pillars of what?
Pillars of Eternity. It's
All right.
you see what you think. We'll see.
Okay. I'm gonna watch some videos on that when we're done here.
Yeah, and I'm highlighting that because I tried to highlight things that are connected to Malazan as well. So I think Pillars is, you know, bullseye when it comes to Malazan interpretations. Thank you so much. I hope you would like to come back to the channel, maybe talk more details about chapters and so on. That would be interesting. So thank you so much, and I hope you who have watched the video liked it as well. If you have questions for Derek and Justin, you can write them in the comments below, of course, and you can also connect to their podcast as well to continue to the discussion with them, so the Malazan community can grow. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.